Welcome to patch 25.04. After her recent adjustments, Ashe is sitting a bit on the weaker side, so this patch Riot is looking to add the bite back to her Frost. For this change list, Riot is looking to give her some more power in the mid-game by increasing the AD scaling on her Q and W while also giving her a bit more upfront damage on her R so that Ashe and her allies can more successfully burst down enemies she's engaged on. Diana has quickly risen in the ranks as a jungler but is currently struggling as a mid laner. Riot is giving her some generally helpful buffs to make her a stronger mid lane while pulling down some jungle mods with the intent to slightly nerf her there. Riot is specifically choosing to increase her early game flat damage as a way to open up non-assassin build paths and to reduce some of her current low MMR skew. Ekko's currently sitting a bit weak in both the jungle and mid lane, so Riot has some timely buffs to help him out. Riot has some extra base damage for his Q which should help him shave seconds clearing jungle camps and minion waves without needing additional power from items. Elise jungle was quite weak at the start of the season, but recent buffs to Dark Harvest and Electrocute have brought her back to viability. However, Elise support has taken over as she's a bit too strong overall, so Riot is removing some of her support one-shot potential and buffing her sustained spider powers so that she still has a leg to stand on as a jungler. Gangplank's been avoiding his oranges and needs a dose of vitamin B for buffs. Riot has cooked him up some base stat buffs due to how cleanly it benefits both his Q and his synergies with Trinity Force. Hwei's currently painting Ls for his opponents, especially when it's a higher skilled player holding the brush. As a champion that benefits from his flexibility to adapt to all situations, Riot is looking to reduce how well he can optimize his laning phase and other tools that better players typically use. Riot has a pretty straightforward change for Jayce this patch. Last patch when Riot raised the attack speed cap, Riot missed increasing his W to match, so Riot is back to right that wrong. Kalista's changes at the start of the year succeeded in making her quite a bit nicer to play, but she's a bit overpowered right now whether you're a pro player or have simply learned how to play this difficult markswoman. Since most players haven't mastered Kalista's high skill curve, Riot is opting to be more pro-focused with this nerf, so Riot is hitting her soul mark damage as an attempt to focus on that tier of play while leaving your average Kalista player relatively untouched. Kog'Maw normally sits at pretty high win rates due to being easy to play and always having room for counterplay. However, he's winning a little bit more than is fair right now, so Riot is delivering a small tap down. Riot is just taking away some damage that he shouldn't really miss, as Riot wants to preserve his rapid fire spitballs as best in class. That said, a PKOG is getting some compensation for this nerf as it's not very strong right now and could use the help. Lulu is in quite a strong state right now and has power she can afford to lose, so Riot is looking to give her some meaningful nerfs this patch. E is one of Lulu's most flexible and reliable abilities, so Riot is looking to take it down a notch while also removing a bit of power from her whimsy. Mel has been very popular both to pick and to ban. Riot believe Mel experiences just a little too much safety for opponents to effectively punish her due to her range and ability durations. So to correct that, Riot is lowering her Q range and speed, W duration, and early E root duration to make her a more assailable target. At the same time, Riot is returning some of her ability to scale into the mid and late game with some added damage to both E and R while lowering the damage value of W from rank up, which results in some painful endgame experiences. Nautilus power levels are currently sinking, especially in solo Q, so Riot is looking to give him back a little power in his Q to make him a bit more of a kill threat early game so he can get those early takedowns and ride that wave to a win. Sion's not in the best state at the moment, and since Riot is about to nerf a bunch of his main items, Riot is setting him up with some proactive compensation buffs. Riot is doing this by giving him some base defensive power that he lost from his items. Additionally, Sion currently struggles in lane with a lot of losing matchups, so Riot is targeting his base armor instead of armor scaling to specifically help him in the early game. Teemo jungle has definitely gotten weaker since Riot all went Noxus, and the recent nerfs to his E definitely didn't do him any favors there. Since he's already in a good spot in his other positions, Riot is giving him very specific jungle power. Warwick's actually doing just fine in the jungle, but his power in top lane is, well, over the top. Riot is looking to offset this difference by hitting his Q here since he maxes it first when playing top but second when in the jungle. Yasuo hasn't been able to find his stride recently, so Riot is here to put some wind behind his metaphorical sails this patch. Riot wants it if Yasuo players were more willing to buy early crit chance, so Riot is softening his crit damage modifier from way back when base crit damage was 200%. Though Abyssal Mask is doubly situational, both needing Mr. and other magic damage teammates to synergize with, it was overbuffed at season start and doesn't need to be quite so good. Riot is fine with Abyssal being a fairly rare purchase, as it's not important that tanks consistently raise damage output across the board. Riot has had Fimbulwinter on their radar for a while. It's been a very strong item for a while, but it's been consistently overlooked, especially since not all tanks need mana. However, Riot is at a point now where champions who are between two options should clearly always be choosing the tank option. Riot is looking to fix that this patch, so Riot is bringing its shield down a notch. While very popular and the current poster child of frustrating tank items, we don't believe Heartsteel is actually quite as powerful as its reputation may suggest. The nerf here is meant to be fairly small as a result. That said, the high-end snowball cases for this item can get out of hand, so Riot is specifically going after the best case scenarios where it gains over 1000 bonus HP and feeds into all the other HP scaling. ADC builds take a little bit too long to get off the ground at the moment, so Riot is shrinking their most built item, Infinity Edge, in order to let them get into the rest of their build sooner. After making several balance passes at level 2 boots late last year, Riot has made them to a point where they're appropriately competitive with legendary items. That said, Riot has some minor balance outliers within the boot space itself, so Riot is looking to bring up some of the worst performers and bring down the top end a touch. First is Mercury's Treads, which is the weakest tank footwear. We know 50 gold doesn't sound like a lot, but boots are small items and as a percentage, this is like dropping 125 gold off of a full legendary. As Mercury's Treads are getting a bit stronger, plated Steelcaps are getting a bit weaker, since they're currently the strongest boots in the game. This has the added benefit of being a very small buff for ADCs, which Riot is happy to lightly buff in the short term. Symbiotic Souls are the worst performing boots in the game for most players, so they're deserving of a buff. Riot is being a bit cautious here, only giving 5 move speed to the unupgraded version, but Riot will keep an eye out to see if they're deserving of more love in the future. Unending Despair was the strongest tank item in the game before season start, but players hadn't really caught on. Now that it's generically purchasable with both armor and MR, players are flocking in and identifying that it is indeed very, very good. As the intent was to push the item more toward health stackers, Riot is continuing on that trend, making it still great for champions who stack bonus health and less of a generic tank item that anyone can grab.